Ryan,
Tony, and Crystal.
We can't guarantee that you're gonna look great, but if you wanna stay in shape, well, you better hit the GymWits.
That's right, man. Tell 'em. Welcome to the GymWits podcast. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic.
And I'm Tony Marinucci, aka Tips with Tony, a registered dietitian.
And we are the GymWits. So how have you guys been doing? We are in mid-May. Looks like the stay-at-home order has been extended for a little bit longer if you're in New York City. How are you guys holding up?
Not bad. Tony, you want to go first?
No, I was just gonna say, I think for a moment I had a moment, and I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Moment, and then I was like, "Everything's fine. I'm healthy. I'm safe. I'm alive. I'm grateful for my job." I just went into gratitude mode, but I had a little pity party first.
I think we're all entitled to that.
Yeah,
a little bit.
What about you, Justin?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm still down in Atlantic City for one more day. It's been a bit of a roller coaster because I've had some of the mathematically, I've had, it's been such an anomaly, the hands card in poker that I've been playing, where I was such a big favorite. Like one hand, I was a 97% favorite to win for a lot of money or for potentially a lot of money, and I lost, which means I would have won that hand 97 out of 100 times. One time I was... stuff like that, When another time I was about a 90 out of 100 to win, just like crazy stuff. And it's been happening like that. And that's not to mention the ones where I'm just simply a 4-1 favorite, a 3-1 favorite. And every time I wound up losing when all the money was in, which is crazy. Really? It just doesn't happen that way. It's just supposed to, generally the math, evens out. But I did win one huge game. Yeah. So I'm up a good, I could have been up a lot of money, but I'm up a solid amount of money.
Okay.
So let's put it that way. If not for really bad luck, I'd be up a lot more, but whatever, I'm not complaining. The idea is that you want to sort of stay close to even and then hit one big cash, right? It's kind of like it's like the way the Yankees won back in the day. Where they would basically sort of keep the game close and then hit a big, 3-run home run or something like that, and then bring on Mo Rivera to lock it down, right? So like that. That's sort of the formula. But I've gotten unlucky.
But you're still gonna gamble more today, or are you done?
I'm done for for today. I am gonna come back on Sunday and play a game that I've already qualified for, and it's a big game. It's $100,000 prize.
Oh, well,
not first place.
Got it.
First place will probably be a lot. So 20, 40,000. I don't know how it works out, but
oh damn.
So I've already qualified for that. So I guess that counts as profit too. So yeah, I'm gonna come back and try to hit the real home run there. So we'll see if I can
definitely let us know.
Yeah. And then you're heading back to New York after?
I'm heading back to New York today for a little bit. Then back to AC on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then down to Nashville for probably three weeks or so to take care of some stuff down there. It's sort of weird. It's like there's with this whole thing going on, there's a bizarre sense of freedom. As long I could travel freely between the places I can go, but I just don't see many people. Just stay away from most people. But
how long's the car ride? Sorry, Ryan. How long's the car ride?
About from New York to AC is about 2.5 hours, right? And there's never any traffic, so it's really easy. To Nashville is from New York is about 14 and change. Jeez. But I usually stop in Virginia along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you're right. There is a weird, I've been getting a lot done that I would not have gotten done if I'd been working. Like the podcast being one of the things. Yeah. So there is this weird sense of freedom and ability to do things. It just kind of is unfortunate. And I'm always kind of anxious about work. You're just always
we're anxious.
Been lucky that my job's been pretty good about it. But depending on how long it goes and how things go with our client, like if the client decides, we're not going to open up a gym, until November, who knows what the job situation is going to be. So it is very kind of
Well, I have another plan,
What?
and it's that while everything is really low, and probably while leasing companies are looking for people to rent, it might be my time to strike and open my bagel shop down in Nashville. I'm considering doing that. So I think it's a good time to get in, right?
A bagel shop in Nashville.
Yeah.
I guess.
Where would you get the bagels from New York?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how would you?
Probably not. You can't do that. By the time
Well,
you get there, they
then,
want to be fresh.
no.
Would you import?
If
the
you're
water
a New
from
Yorker and you know how you know how the bagels taste in New York, you don't provide anything less than it's like selling pizza outside of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna find out whether or not that whole water thing is a myth. Like, we're gonna find out very quickly but I have a feeling it's a myth, and because there's plenty of good bagel places all over the country, you just have to find them. They just have to make them. You have to put care into making them. So
Yeah.
but I think it's a good business, as long as the bagels taste good, right? It's big markup on coffee, and people will always spend, $6 on a latte. So,
but actually,
good luck with that.
Which is ridiculous. But anyways, that's for another day. Ryan, you were about to say, you were talking about your job.
Yeah.
And if they open up another gym or keep it open or whatever, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on like when the gyms do reopen, what that's going to even look like.
Oh wow. Well, we're segueing right into what we're going to talk about. So.
I was trying to be nonchalant about it, but you just called it out.
No, great segue. There. I think obviously when gyms open up, there's going to be a lot of changes. So now I want to say kind of I like. Only because you meant because I work in a company that runs gyms, I'm not like sharing any info. I have no knowledge of our procedures. So like what I'm sharing is more stuff that I've read up on or researched or just kind of maybe common sense would say, but and also reading some of the gyms that have opened up what they're doing. But this isn't necessarily like, hey, here are our policies, because I wouldn't share that, and I'm not privy to that yet. So I just want to kind of put that out there. But anyway, but I think so gyms when they open back up are going to be a lot different. Well, it also depends on the type of facility, because I think you have different kinds of facilities. You have like kind of massive, you have gyms that are massive, that have multiple floors, that have basketball courts and rock climbing walls and pools and outdoor spaces and indoor spaces. And then you're going to have, your standard commercial gym that has maybe 1 or 2 floors and, a couple group exercise rooms, maybe a spinning room. That you're going to have smaller studios, for group that do like group fitness only. You're going to have personal training studios. So you have a lot of different types of facilities that I think, depending on the type of facility, it's going to allow you to be a little bit more flexible. So I think, the one thing you're going to see almost across the board is frequent cleaning. So I think that you're going to see that there will be either the cleaning staff will be kind of working nonstop, or a lot of places will probably hire new cleaning staff, and that there'll be kind of constant cleaning of equipment, throughout the facility. I think another thing you're going to see is, kind of requirements that members also, help cleaning. So in that, like, when you come in, that you're using hand sanitizer, when you use the equipment, that you wipe down the equipment after you use it. I think,
which is also supposed to be what you, how
like
it is.
That's kind of just gym etiquette.
That.
Like most gyms, have a system set up where you or have signs and wipes and say clean up after yourself. I think that will probably get enforced more. What's interesting to me is I think how much obviously a lot of things are going to be different by default, and we'll get into that. But I think one thing that interests me is how much responsibility is put on the members in a lot of these situations. Like, for example, will members be required to wear masks, or will they not? Will it, and I've seen some situations where some studios have made it a requirement that members wear masks and gloves. And some have made it, optional, but, or we strongly recommend it, but it's not required. How many gyms are going to enforce the, clean up your equipment policy. So that's something that definitely is of kind of interest to me, is like, okay, what are we going to require our members to do? Because, you always kind of have like the customers first, but, and then also, on a flip side is, the staff, staff is important, obviously, and you don't want your employees to get sick. And so, I think the thing that will be interesting, like with masks, for example. So another thing, you'll see every employee is going to wear a mask. Most places, especially in bigger cities, everyone's going to have a mask on for now. But the masks, like as we know now, unless you're wearing, very specific masks, like the masks are to protect other people. So if you have your employees wearing the masks but the members aren't, then you're still putting your employees and really all of the other membership at risk, because at the end of the day, for the most part, the masks is to stop the kind of droplets from getting out and making other people sick. But the masks aren't going to will generally not going to stop you from catching something. So that's of interest to me also, is how many gyms are going to require all members to wear masks. I think you're going to see a lot of, you'll see things like almost like workout intermissions. So you're going to see, like, throughout the day, there might be specific times where, like, all right, we're closing down for a half hour or an hour to do a cleaning. Or we'll definitely see a limited capacity. And I don't know how that will look, but, for some places they'll probably, I think it's Lifetime Fitness has already set up like a reservation system. But a lot of gyms are going to have kind of reservation type of systems, or just a capacity. So, you can only have X amount of people in the gym. But that also puts it on the gym to develop some kind of a system for that. So whether it's an online check-in, which a lot of places already have, or some kind of a wait list, or something you can check on an app to see, are you at capacity or are you not. So I think there's it'd be interesting to see, like, how facilities go about kind of setting that stuff up. And again, some places have the technology in place, others don't, but we're going to see that. And I think you'll have places that are up to like a 50% capacity, if not smaller. I think another thing that we're going to see is, well, obviously we will see, is like enforced social distancing. And so that might be by physically moving the equipment so that they're separate. So you have, if a gym has enough space, you're going to see them just literally taking treadmills and bikes and stuff and separating them further. Or you might have a situation where if they don't have that space, like, one of the gyms, like the YMCA I'm at, like, I don't think there's enough space to separate things by 6 feet. So you might just have it so that, like, every other piece of equipment is not available. So, that might be a situation that, you can manage, where you can manage equipment. There's, I think that we're also going to see for a lot of places, like, you may get like, the gym will open up like a partial rollout. So let's say, group fitness classes probably won't get started right away. So you'll see a lot of places that are going to open up where they're going to have their, the strength training and the cardio stuff will be available. But for a lot of places, I think group fitness classes might be off, or suspended for a little while, because just obviously it's hard to not, hard to enforce social distancing with that. But this is where, when I was talking about like the larger places, so if you have a gym that has a gymnasium or an outdoor space, they may start to then move the classes to those areas. So you may see a situation where, like, classes that were in a regular studio might go into the gymnasium. So again, using a YMCA as an example, because YMCAs tend to have gymnasiums, you may see a situation where the group fitness classes go into the gymnasium because you have a large open space where everybody could get, 10 feet of space between them. So I think you might see a situation where that's where classes are held. But then you won't see like contact sports. So if you have a gymnasium for basketball, you're probably not going to see basketball, or things like that. But then that also opens up another question of, what about like kickboxing gyms or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or MMA? Like, will they open up? And when they open up, how do they, are you going to use a grappling dummy? Like, are you just going to set up like a dozen grappling dummies and people just do that the whole time? So I think that, gyms that require physical interaction, are going to be in a really tough spot. And I don't know how they're going to manage, because, it's one thing if you're like a YMCA or a Equinox or whatever, and you have, those are tough because they generally don't have like classes with close contact. But it's one thing if you to say, okay, well, we're going to limit close contacts, we're going to not have those kinds of classes. But if all you do is kickboxing, or all you do is Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you're kind of in a rough position. And I don't know what the right answer is. Beyond maybe making things more fitness oriented, installing bags, like I said, like as Justin, like it would suck, using a grappling dummy to train with, but maybe, if they're like, well, we're going to figure out what to, we got to make do with what we have until, we get past this. Another thing you might see are like temperature checks. So you may see a situation where they do a temperature check on everyone before they get in. Again, it's kind of invasive, but I mean, and it's not going to tell you that somebody's sick or not. But again, one of those things you might see. Let's see. There's,
So what about for places like yoga studios where people are often, classes are packed, so they're just going to cut the capacity and it's going to be like too bad you can't get in. So, you have to like, it's going to be a big, there's a lot of schools like that, or the group exercise classes you mentioned where people are right next to each other. And it's one thing if you have a gym in Austin, Texas that's like enormous, but if you're in New York City, right, these gym studios are very small and they make their living off of the fact that their classes are packed. The rent's very expensive and the space is very small.
Well, so that's why they're going to have to even increase the price of the classes.
Yeah. So I think a lot of those studios, the kind of boutique fitness industry and the yoga studios and places like that are going to have to be creative, because if you're at 50% capacity or less, it's going to be a lot harder to make money, especially if you're in New York where rents are high and you need every member you can get. So I think a lot of these places are going to have to be creative. So I think, and they're expecting that, like they're going to have to do that. You can't, if you're a yoga studio that's got people like, shoulder to shoulder, you can't do that, and you're going to have to figure out a way. So I mean, either they're going to go out of business, which sucks, and is, as we know, like one of my kickboxing gym or the gym I trained at, and you've been there, Justin, they closed down for good, and a lot of places are going to do that. So I think one of the solutions for a lot of places is you're going to see a huge increase in like streaming and on-demand exercise. I think that's a way for gyms to offer, it's interesting because it's actually a service that I think we didn't know we needed, where like a lot of gyms are realizing now, oh, we can offer this even once we get past the end of the pandemic. This is an add-on service that potentially could be useful for people. So let's say we get, a year or 2 years from now, I think you'll have a lot of gyms that will have these on-demand sessions so that let's say you are having a hard time getting to the gym, because you have situations where, let's say somebody comes physically to the gym once a week, but they're just too busy to do it more than once. If they then can do a couple of online classes a week, that might add the value to keep them there, where some people, it's like, well, I'm only coming once a week, it's not worth it. So I think we're going to see an increase in on-demand, and a situation where people are probably going to have to, if you love your yoga studio, you're probably going to have to get by, going to 1 or 2 classes a week and doing 1 or 2 online. And I think that, again, these studios are going to have to find like creative ways to do it. It might mean maybe more classes. So one solution might be, if you're a studio, is if you have, let's say, you're doing 5 classes a day, you might have to do like 7 or 8 classes a day and just stagger them, maybe make your classes slightly, like maybe you do, instead of you doing, I mean, yoga's a little tricky, but let's say if you're doing hour classes, maybe you do 45 minutes, and try to stagger them a little bit more. So I think that you're going to see a lot of changes in that way, where, the capacity is going to be down, and there'll be an increased reliance on like virtual classes and sessions in order to kind of, allow for people to, to get value without, feeling like they're wasting their money.
So do you think that maybe we have this all wrong? We thought that, either maybe the US or Russia was behind or China maybe was behind releasing the coronavirus, but maybe like Peloton was, or something like that. like maybe that's who we should be looking at. Like, 'cause, right, their stock is higher than ever. Like, haha, we got in at the right time.
Oh yeah, well, I heard like TRX, like it's sold out, and like, no.
So maybe that's the conspiracy that we should be pushing right now.
Exactly. So another thing you're gonna see is I think, like, I don't think there'll be water. Like, I don't think people will use water fountains. It's like a simple thing, but like,
People don't really use water fountains.
Yeah.
I guess they do, but now they're almost all being replaced by those bottle.
Yeah, so I think
automatic ones.
You're gonna see that those will be almost kind of ubiquitous in fitness centers,
which they're coming to that point anyway.
Should be anyway.
Environmental
Depends, but yeah. And another thing which it'll be interesting to see is what happens with locker rooms, because obviously locker rooms.
What about locker rooms?
You're in a tight situation,
showers, yeah.
And so how do you manage that? Like, I would think that the saunas and steam rooms are probably not going to be in use for a while. If they are, I mean, I don't know.
It's like that sounds like a breeding ground.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like I don't know the science behind like the spread of disease in a steam room. One would think it's not not a good idea. But
it sounds like a pretty.
So, but
then again, there's some people saying that the humidity actually kills the virus, and that's a very humid place.
It is.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So
I think the problem is since we don't.
Yes, but saunas are like completely not humid, right? It's dry, completely dry.
So the thing is,
but I heard that heat, is not good for. Yeah, who knows?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think it would be to be
still
safe.
would never. I think they're already gross, so no offense to anybody that goes in them, but I've never gone in. I don't know how people think. They think it's relaxing. I think it's disgusting. No offense.
I love.
I'm probably offending a lot of people right now, but I know it's great for the muscles and all, but it sounds really just like germ infested. So.
Yeah, I love the sauna. It's like one of the best parts of the gym.
I know a lot of people who love it.
I just don't think about it. Yeah, I just don't think about how dirty it is, but it is one of my favorite parts of the places in the gym. But yeah, so I don't know. I think to be safe, they won't. Because there's questions as to whether will it do better in heat? And I think there's conflicting things. Like I've heard some things that say, oh, it does. The heat seems to kill it. Then it's like, nope, it doesn't. Seems like it's just as it spreads just as fast in hot, warmer temperatures. But I think to be safe, until we really do have a better grasp on the disease and how it does spread and what kills it and what doesn't, I would think that saunas are going to be limited or not used at all, at least for now. But again, we don't know.
I want to backtrack a little bit. So you mentioned that cleaning is going to be a big thing.
Yeah,
but it's basically going to have to be for something like free weights becomes a nightmare. So it's like so you're going to have someone on staff, because I do not think that you can count on members to do this, right? Like you have to look at it as idiot proof.
Yeah.
Right? Like as many times, as many signs as you can post around the gym that says, please put the weights back. Now I know in some nicer gyms, people just do it because they're paying more for a gym or they're more respectful or whatever. We've saw it, and for whatever reason, I don't know, you can flame me for this, but I've noticed in the more expensive gyms, people put the weights back more. When we went to that gym on, what was the name of that gym? Fitness Point, was that it?
Yeah.
Which was the cheapest gym we've ever gone to. There was weights all over the place and no one cared. So, but I found that in the nicer gyms, the weights, and also they have staff putting the weights back.
Yeah.
But to the point, which is, if you can't expect members to put the weights back or they don't care, right? Can you really expect them to wipe down every piece of equipment after use? You cannot expect the members to do that. So you're going to have staff basically watching every piece of equipment that's in use and then wiping it down as soon as it's done. And maybe the members will be asked to, maybe there is a harsher penalty for members. Like if you're caught not wiping it down, you can be removed. Maybe it has to go that far and be like, if you do not have more access to wipes and sprays all over the gym, and it's like, if you do not wipe down the equipment after every use, you can be removed. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think different gyms are going to manage that differently. So I think that, yes, in some situations you will have people that'll outright say, yeah, you're going to get kicked out if you don't do it. But you're right. I think more than anything, they're going to be well-meaning people who just do a shitty job of cleaning, or
that too. It's like the thing is, it's like people aren't doing it out of, they don't, they're. Ooh, Ryan, I think we lost. Wait, you guys there?
Yeah. We lost you
for a second.
You lost me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So no, as you say, people could be well-meaning, but they're just dumb, or they're just, or they just don't care, or they're in a rush, or a combination. You could have people that are dumb. You could have people that are
There's plenty of people that really don't believe in this virus and think it's a conspiracy.
Exactly.
And like that's putting us in danger. So
any sort of everything, any type of
Yeah.
people. But the most importantly is that you're going to need every piece of equipment, every dumbbell to be wiped down after use, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going to have to happen.
This is like random, but not really. But like I've also like I realize myself, I always clean it after every single time, and every time I do it after, I'm always like, why didn't I do this before? Like, how do I know the person before me did that? So their sign should say clean before and after.
Yeah.
And we need the responsibility to put on ourselves to do it beforehand too, because it literally never fails. It's just like I always realize it after I'm already on the equipment, or like after I've cleaned it. I'm like, why didn't I do this before?
Yeah.
But you can ask Ryan, like, how much can you rely on people to do that stuff?
That's what. No, it's true. It's true.
It's like I don't. It might sound sort of mean or crass, but I don't trust people.
I know.
I don't believe that people are calculating and want to get people sick or mean, but I just don't trust that people care enough. Like they do what's in the best interest for them, right? And if wiping down the equipment is something they don't want to do, they're just not going to do it. Right. I've seen perfectly nice people that left tons of weights out. And then when I said to them, hey, you're supposed to put the weights back, they go, oh, I'm so sorry. They just were absent-minded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't trust people.
Yeah. So I would agree that I think that we're going to, we're going to be in a situation where we're you're going to see more staff who's tasked with kind of basically just watching and cleaning on the go. When they see something, you see something and you go and, clean it up, as things are going on. So I think you're definitely going to see a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, that's just gonna be part of the, that's going to be part of it. The day to day you're going to see in the gym is just a lot of cleaning. They will attempt to encourage members to be on board, but yeah, I don't know that you can enforce it or make anybody,
in like the smaller gyms you can. Like I know I'm like, especially like Orange Theory, I go to Orange Theory and they already implement that. It's kind of amazing. Like they literally hand out the wipes before you switch stations and you wipe down your station before you switch. That's always been something that they've done. A certain amount of spots, but going back to what we were saying earlier about like having to kind of sign up and sign up ahead of time, it actually really helps with accountability. So I mean, like obviously there's a lot of negative things that are coming out of this and things that are unfortunate and disappointing, but I do think that it is actually going to help people kind of take their health a little bit more seriously, because they're going to have to commit to, when they said they were going to go, they're going to have to go, especially if they have to like sign out a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's also going to help them understand like how long they're on going to be doing that workout for and what they're going to be doing. And rather than kind of just going to the gym, dilly-dallying and then leaving, or just saying they're going to go and then being like, I don't feel like it, and not going at all. So we could look at that as a positive.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I think there's a lot of changes and a lot that we're going to see over the next, next year at least.
So sorry to interrupt you, but so what do you think? There's a vaccine, this thing goes away, and maybe you have to take a vaccine. Maybe the new normal is you have to take a vaccine for this every year, right? Something like that. Are gyms going to just go back to where they were before, or is it now this, or whatever's implemented is going to stay, and they're going to be much more, up on the whole cleaning and wiping everything down and just being more vigilant?
I mean, I think that, I don't know. That's a good question. I would think that this is largely a new normal. Like, I think that you will see capacities increase if there, once we have, okay. Sure. I think if we find that there are ways to treat this, that, increase, and again, it's like, that's a tough thing about it, is that because it's likely a fairly low mortality rate, but it seems like it's very infectious. And I think that's the issue people get, because I think recently it seems to have come out that like there are a lot of people that are a lot more were asymptomatic than, the habit that were asymptomatic. So it seems like it's killing fewer people by percentage, but if it's infecting people at a high percentage, then it's still going to kill a lot of people. And so I think that's the part that some people forget when they think, okay, oh well, it's a much lower mortality rate, so it shouldn't be, we can't be that afraid of it. Well, yeah, but it's still infectious. And so I think if we get to a point where we can really legitimately treat it, and that even people who are compromised have a good outlook, we might see an easing of it. And obviously if there's a vaccine, we'll see things, capacities will increase. Maybe you won't see as, masks and stuff, but I do think there'll be long-term effects, which would be good. I mean, I think in general, gyms should be cleaner. And we'd hope that, I mean, like at the end of the day, something like this could happen again, and that maybe we have a better way of, managing it. So it's gonna be interesting. Like as being somebody who's in the fitness industry, who's in the trenches, as far as being in the middle of the gyms, I'm nervous because, I feel like of all the different places, like gyms, it's not that it's voluntary, because exercise is necessary, and the kind of consequences of not exercises could be just as bad or worse than catching this virus. There's a fear that if we get through a second wave or a third wave, or if this is a regular thing, then it does make gyms kind of one of the first places that's going to get shut down, just because it's a place people are congregating, sweating, breathing on each other. So it definitely is nerve-wracking, and I think you will see the industry immediately have to take steps and try to do things to combat it, because not only from a health perspective, but from a financial perspective, this is going to be really trying on gyms, because even if we get the economy back up and running, like it's be hard for people to want to go into a place if they're going to it's a breeding ground for getting sick.
You know what I'm thinking? Would be a great time to, if all three of us came out and endorsed some supplement that we claimed would prevent the coronavirus. I guarantee, like, a lot of people would buy it. Well,
there've been people doing that. Oh, look,
I know, it's like so awful, right? That people.
I was watching. There was something on the news today. And it was like a
look on Tony's face. Is like
it was in Long Island too, unfortunately. And there was like so I guess I don't know all the details, but like some newscaster, like there's a local news station, and I guess they stopped airing. I don't know if they stopped airing Trump's briefings or they only were airing Cuomo's briefing. Whatever the case is, there was a protest, and this guy was out there from the news station covering it, and people are yelling at him, saying that his the channel's fake news and blah blah blah. And I wish the guy said this ironically, but he didn't. But some guy's getting closer to the reporter, and the reporter's like, "Hey, stay back, stay 6 feet." Because like, whatever. No, it's fine. I have my hydroxychloroquine. And it's like, and it wasn't ironic. He wasn't saying it like a joke. It was like, I think the guy really thinks that. And it's like, one of those things that.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we can all agree on one thing, right? That it would suck to have lived in the Middle Ages, like during the plague, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, look, I think considering our lives now, it would have sucked to have lived like 50 years ago.
No matter what the plague or not, like,
like
we're very blessed.
What's crazy is like our lives. Well,
it would have sucked for you 50 years ago. For me, and for me, and pretty much for Tony too. But for me being, I think am I still here? You guys?
Yeah.
So it would have sucked for you guys because pretty much it's life was good for any white male, but
now, but you're Jewish, so I don't know
true,
how much better.
But that's harder to get into. It's like pretty much for a women, well, it still sucks for women in most parts of the world. Well, not most parts, but a lot of parts of the world. It's still like bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're still a second-class citizen. So and barely. Oh, we're going too political with that. And barely in the United States, like it's like things are slightly getting better.
Let's transition to a study, or do you want to transition?
Let's go to that. So
because it's kind of related to supplements, because I'm going to read what the study reported, and then you could see. I'm sure people will be flying to buy these supplements, but it's not the worst thing. So, basically, it was a study led by Northwestern University, studied global data from the coronavirus pandemic, and basically have found that there was a strong correlation between severe vitamin D deficiency and mortality rates. So that shouldn't be surprising. So they looked at China, France, Germany, Italy, Iran, South Korea, Spain, Switzerland, the UK, and the United States. And then they looked at the places with the higher mortality rates, like Italy, Spain, and the UK. And they found that those people who had died from the coronavirus had significantly lower levels of vitamin D. And so if you don't know, vitamin D actually does support the immune system. And so that's not really surprising, but we also know that that's just like one part. And so therefore, all that to say that if you wanted to, increase the foods that you eat that contain vitamin D, I don't think that would be harmful. And a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. There's also arguments that the levels that we're looking for aren't really, it's making more people look like they're vitamin D deficient than they actually are. So there's arguments there. But the point being that obviously if you choose food first, there's no harm in it. So foods that are rich in vitamin D are fatty fishes like salmon, walnuts, the egg yolks. Most milks are fortified with vitamin D. And then also to know that when you consume vitamin D, you also want to make sure you're getting enough calcium, because calcium helps absorb vitamin D. So those are things like, yogurts, cottage cheese, most dairy, dark leafy greens, and lots of your fishes that if you keep the bones in, they'll have extra calcium and vitamin D, but you're obviously not eating the bones. But those are going to be better than like a fillet, for example. And then if you did want to take a vitamin D supplement, that's where it's like, I would say if you're deficient, I've always told people, if you're deficient in vitamin D, then you would be subscribed to vitamin D supplement, but I wouldn't just take it just to take it. So making sure, and then if you are going to take a supplement, making sure that it's been verified by a third party. So whatever it says that's inside of it is actually inside of it. And then lastly, just for like 10, 15 minutes, no sunscreen, going outside and getting UV rays. It's actually, it's slightly damaging to the skin, but you'll get your vitamin D and then put your sunscreen on and then stop the damage to your skin.
But is it so as little as 10 minutes is enough to kind of
like 10, 15 minutes? There's a lot of different arguments there, but I think as long as you don't burn, everyone's skin is a different color and there's different, fairness and all of that. Burning obviously means skin damage. So we definitely don't want to get to the point of burnt. But just like a little bit of, having your skin exposed, and that usually is enough to kind of get in the vitamin D. But like I said, food first.
And there was actually some question as to whether and we don't know this for sure, but obviously the rates of African Americans dying of this have been much higher than other ethnicities, and obviously a lot of that is definitely going to be kind of socioeconomic, and they're the ones that are going to be more on the front, more of the kind of essential workers, and kind of not having the luxury of not being able to go out and things like that. But Black people do have lower vitamin D, or tend to have more deficiency because of the melanin. So there is some question as to whether that also could be, if you control for all the other factors, how much of it is that the vitamin D levels are so much lower that that's kind of causing the mortality rate to increase. So it's it is interesting.
It's definitely something we know that this is, it's more of an observational study. There's nothing like, there was no cause and effect or like do this, do that, but it's enough data to show that they should probably do further research. And like I've said this on multiple podcasts, whether it's mine or ours or whoever's, like, that because it's so new, we can't take this stuff as Bible. Like we don't, there's so much we still don't know. So it's important to note, and I want to recommend, obviously you want to do the best that you can to help, but like anything, it's always about variety, because if you do too much of one thing, you don't know if you could potentially be doing damage to your body, to your system, or putting your immune system at greater risk. Like, we're not sure. So like anything, just, stay aware, pay attention, and like I said, if eating a piece of fish, we've talked about this before about omega-3s and like how great it is, and that's where also fish is. So eating fish 2 to 3 times a week, I don't think is going to harm you in any way, of course, unless you have an allergy to fish.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a problem with something like this that's so new, and there's so much research kind of coming out. Is that it's almost it's irresponsible, to especially if you're in a higher position, to almost tout some of these studies without um, having real knowledge, because people are so afraid and so quick to jump on anything that. And I think for a lot of us, me included, for some things, like I'm not apt to, like, if I hear something, I'm not apt to necessarily read the study and do my own research. I'm just like, oh well, so and so said this, I guess that's right. And a lot of people are like that. So I think we all have to exercise restraint when we're talking about things like that, and or add that caveat of, look, this is preliminary research, it looks one way, more needs to be done, we don't know, don't start drinking disinfectants, like you almost need to add that caveat, because people are very quick to listen to whomever their authority person. And I know we joke a lot about people that follow our president, but I think it works all the ways. And you can get, if Cuomo says something or Bernie Sanders says something, a lot of people are going to take that as gospel without doing appropriate research, even when we'll laugh at the president. So I'm not necessarily saying just in one direction. Just in general, we all need to you take everything, you take what you hear, and then do a little bit of your own research. And especially when it comes to the coronavirus, we know so little about it that I think you have to, even there, you have to just take everything with a grain of salt, and wait to hear as more stuff comes out, because we just don't know. I mean, again, like even something like with heat, like 1 minute heat, it'll do bad in good hot climates, and it'll do better, and you just don't know. So just such a weird situation.
No, it's true. And it goes back to sort of what we were talking about earlier. Well, at least my opinion is that I don't trust people. I trust that I trust that people will not always make the right decision. And it is and we're actually seeing it now. And for instance, I was a little concerned about going back to Nashville in Tennessee. They've started opening stuff up. The governor was like, "Oh, we're gonna open stuff up," and everyone was like, "Yeah." And then people there are sick of what's going on, and so now the rates are shooting up again. It's like, people will listen. It's very true that people that are in some sort of position of authority, and a lot of times that just means if they have a lot of ears on them. So a celebrity that has a big Twitter following, a politician, anyone like that, a podcaster, if they have to be they have to be very responsible in what they're doing. And that's why there are lots of politicians on all sides of the aisle, really, right now. It's not a partisan thing that they're just saying, "Oh, we're going to open up. Oh, we need this." It's like, we get it. We're screwed right now. The economy is really bad, but I think things aren't so black. Oh, let's just open everything up. But it's happening in places, and we're seeing the rates skyrocket again. So
it's a tough position. I don't know what's going to fix it, because
I know
I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, especially in a country of our size, because I think herd immunity is not a realistic thing, because you're going to have too many people die, and it's just going to be, it'll be horrific for a lot of people. But if you keep things shut down much longer, like we don't have a strong social safety net, and I think that's what it comes down to. Really, is like we don't have a system in place that can protect all of the citizens when there is something like this. Because if there was a strong enough social safety net, if we had kind of universal health care, and there was really a bill put out, like if they gave everybody enough money to get by, they like, let's say if you go out, you cancel rents and mortgages for 3 months, you give everybody a couple $1,000s a month, everyone has free health care, you can potentially weather that storm. You could make people stay home for 3-4 months and really try to fight it. And then when people go back to work, you stagger it and you bring people back, but we don't have that in place. And so, and our priorities tend to be kind of the big corporations. So we don't have a system in place, I think, to weather that storm. So I think we're going to see, like, once people get back to work, it's going to spike again. And we're just going to have these rolling, like, waves of, lockdowns until we get a vaccine. And it's unfortunate, but I don't know how that's not the, that's not what happens, moving forward.
All right. So
Crazy.
We haven't asked the trainer. Did you open up the?
We do?
yes,
drive?
we haven't asked the
Okay.
trainer.
All right. So let's
Oh.
go to the ask the trainer.
All right.
My apartment,
Positive.
I haven't had my air conditioning on right now, but I am sweating. So can
Okay.
we
Go for it, Tone. Turn on your air conditioner. Oh no, wait.
No, because the noise.
It'll bleed.
Yeah.
It'll
The
bleed. All right,
noise,
we'll get
yeah.
through it. We'll get through it. All right.
All right. So what's the question?
What's
All right.
the
So
what's the question?
so Scott asks, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I started seriously lifting weights about a year ago. Recently, I've been struggling to increase my weights, but I feel as if I'm struggling with the grip as opposed to actual strength. Does it make sense to increase weights if my grip is struggling? Do you have any tips on increasing grip strength?"
That's good. All right, good
That's
question.
a great question.
Yeah. So a lot of times you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you find that like with certain exercises, as you increase the weights, you start to have trouble with almost like the connective tissue and the smaller muscles become the weaker thing versus like the larger muscles. So you'll have like grip strength is an issue. A lot of times with like, things like bicep curls or like triceps extensions, like the, issues become the tendons get injured before the muscles. So yeah, so grip. So I'm assuming then you're talking about certain exercises like maybe, deadlifts, or if you're like holding, dumbbells, like for, I don't know, shrugs or like lunging or, think you're going to have a hard time gripping. So, you can do both, but I would, depending on the exercise and how strong you're getting and the weights you're using, might change a little bit. But yeah, I would definitely say incorporate grip strength into your program. And so, you kind of have a more broad or general thing. So you could just focus on grip strength itself, which would be, maybe, doing things where you're literally just isometric holds with heavier weights. So you might take, like, let's say if you're doing dumbbell deadlifts or squats holding 50 pounds, just throwing that out there, and that's you're feeling you're having a hard time doing the squats and holding the grip, you might want to just focus on isometric holds with the 50 pounds.
Yep.
For whatever 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then going heavier on those weights. So you're just doing those isometric holds with the weights. You can do things like forearm curls or wrist extensions, help a little bit with grip strength.
Get one of those little gripper things, although I never found that. I found that doesn't help for weights.
It'll help for practical, like if you're doing grappling, it'll definitely help. But but again, grip strength, like functional grip strength for like grappling is a little bit different from like weightlifting grip strength. So just
I find that my favorite for that sort of thing are the farmer's walks. I find that
farmer's walks are great.
So good. And it's a great exercise just in general.
Another thing you could do is if you work on gripping odd shaped things. So like, for example, you could just go out into your yard or, go out into a park and find like, weird shaped stones and just try to grip and hold those. Like, you'll find that you'll have a hard time grabbing things that, like barbells and dumbbells are meant for you to grip, but try grabbing things that maybe aren't designed for you to grip and holding on to them, especially if they have a good amount of weight to them, can help. They sell, like, you can get online actual, I forget the name, but they're basically like attachments to bars that increase the circumference or the, the diameter of the, of the bar, and that will actually, it makes it harder. So if you're gripping a wider object, it's actually harder to grip, and so it's more challenging. So you might, another thing you can do is if you use those larger grips, you can do the same exercises with maybe lighter weight but with those grips, and that's also going to help you with your grip strength. So that's another great thing that's a little more functional, because you can focus on the actual exercises that you're doing with, but just with that increased grip. And and the same thing, like, you can work strength versus endurance. So some of the grip strength might be the actual, like, how much you can hold, but some of it might be the endurance. So it might be that you can grip 50 pounds and hold it for 10 seconds, but more than that, and you fatigue. So you might want to work on things where you're holding it for longer periods, but then you also might want to work on things where you're holding heavier weights. So it's totally something you can do. I might say for a couple weeks, just keep your weights at the same and just focus more on, do the exercises, but add some grip training into it. Maybe add, again, if you can get the wider grips, do that. And then play around with, like, maybe during your warm-ups or off days, doing things where you're kind of gripping odd shaped objects. Even bar, plates, like, grip, if it depending on the kind of plate, like, grip the part that doesn't have a handle, and just playing with that will help a lot with grip strength. Speaking of, I saw you'll get, I don't know if it'll be as funny to you, Tony. I don't know how much like weightlifting you've done, but I saw like a meme, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it basically had a picture of like you remember the old style like iron plates, Justin? You know,
Of
the old
course.
style that
Sure.
and then the newer like plates that are rubber and usually have handles.
Yeah.
And it was like, they're both 45 pounds, but it was something like, I dare you to tell me that the iron one was lighter than the, than the other one. It's so true. Like that iron one felt like it was 1,000 pounds,
It's
where
true.
like the newer ones didn't. So I just thought it was funny.
No, it is funny. It's funny.
Uh,
There's something to be said about not having new and shiny equipment where some of the bars they're made easier to hold, and yes, they help in some ways, but not in others. When things are a little when those big iron bars and like and the really thick the really thick barbells, now they make them, or the dumbbells that are like scratchy, now they make them sleek and easy to hold. I think there is something to that where it's like it hurts a little bit to hold them. Like, I don't know if it actually makes you any stronger, because weight is weight no matter how you push it. But I don't know, there's something to toughening yourself up when it comes to that. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just where we grew up where things were just starting to become sleek, so we had to work with some of the old equipment that wasn't as user friendly.
Yeah.
But I think it was good.
Yeah.
Toughens you up a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. So as usual, all of our stuff is at the GymWits, gymwits.com. All of our social media, our website, rate us, review us if you can. Fill out the survey. That's always at the show notes. If you have a chance, it'll help us out. And that is it. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic, reminding you that truth does not sell.
And I'm Tony Marinici, aka Tips with Tony, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.
And we are the GymWits.